Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video today on the channel, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. If you know, I actually posted very recently during the Christmas time that I saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But while I was making this video and I was thinking of what I would say about this movie, I kind of just came to a conclusion. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, in my opinion, is almost flawless. Like, I love this movie. This is one of the best, not the best, it's the best movie of last year. But I didn't want to make a review of it because a review would imply that there's something I had to say that hasn't already been said, I guess you could say. Like, if I was to make a review of it and just tell you that it's amazing, it wouldn't give anything because you've already seen reviews of people saying it's amazing. Which also, if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Go see it. Just from hearing everyone and their mothers talk about it, it's worth your time. But instead of giving you a review of this movie, I think I'm just gonna give you a list of everything I loved about this movie. This video is literally just gonna be me gushing about this movie, listing every single thing I love about Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish. Now, the first thing I love about this movie is the sheer concept. It makes me care about Shrek as a franchise again. Like, don't get me wrong, I watched the Shrek movies as a kid. I enjoyed the Shrek movies as a kid, but as I slowly grew older, some of them I just really didn't care for. Like, get this through, I like the first Shrek. I think it's a great film. The second film, I love. I love the second Shrek movie. It's definitely the best, and I still think that it's better than this movie, but it's pretty close, and I still really enjoy that movie for what it is. Like, who doesn't love the I Need a Hero number? Bro, it's like steamed into my memory. I love it. But after Shrek 2, the franchise took a nosedive, especially at 3. I absolutely hate 3. It's definitely the worst in the franchise, and I just don't like it as a movie either. And 4, like, is okay, but it's very forgettable in my eyes. And that's actually the same with Puss in Boots, the very first spin-off movie that this movie is a sequel to. So I've had a really rocky start with these movies, and I've watched them as a kid, but I wasn't that big a fan of them, as some people were calling them, like, Oscar-worthy films, which I think the second one is, but the other ones, like, I don't know. First one's good, not that big fan of the other ones. But this movie did the impossible and just made me want to see what they'll do in this universe next. If that's a Puss in Boots 3, which, please, please, DreamWorks, do that, please. Or they take this same animation and they translate it to Shrek 5. Which, man, if you do that, I'll be there first day, because this movie's animation is fantastic. And that's going to lead me into the other thing. The animation in this movie is top-notch. Everyone's already said this at this point. The animation in this movie is on another level. When I look at the animation in this movie, you know what I think? Spider-Verse level tier. Yeah, I think it's that good. I think it's up there with Spider-Verse. Like, obviously, Spider-Verse is obviously going to be better, but just look at the fucking animation here. It's just beautiful. Like, I cannot say as much as I love this movie and its animation. It literally looks like they took a storybook and they translated it to film perfectly. The frame rate will change certain times to elevate different forms like movement in action sequences. And it was such a smart way to do it, because sometimes, in my thinking, it would come off as, like, clunky or a bit slow. But they do it so well in this movie, and it just looks so fluid, and it looks so great, and it literally looks like a painting. Like someone going frame for frame and just painting this beautiful action scene. And it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And another thing that I really like is the colors in this movie. I always found the Shrek movies that were kind of a little bit void of color. Like, that was one of the things, like, I understand the animation style they were going for, but personally, I prefer a little bit more color in my animated movies. And this movie is fucking gorgeous for its colors. It just pops off your eyes so well, and you just look at it and you just get immersed, because it's so fucking beautiful. Like, this movie is gorgeous with its colors, its animation, just everything. The fight scenes in this movie, oh my god, they're so good. I literally, when I saw this movie, I went to my house and I literally spent an hour just like trying to find the action scenes on YouTube to see if people actually recorded it or they posted the company, because they're that good. I wanted to watch the action scenes over and over again. I love the action. It's so fluid and exciting. It has such weight to it, and it's just so visually amazing. And I loved every minute of it. Also, to do with the plot, I love the first 5 minutes of this movie. The first 5 minutes of this movie is just chaos. but not like bad chaos, the best chaos possible. It gives us one of the most catchy musical numbers I've heard all year, which I legitimately still sing to myself sometimes because it's just that good. And after the movie, I found myself just humming it all the way home, and not in a bad way. I just loved it. And the chaos in these first 5 minutes really set the tone, not only just for how fun this movie is going to be, but the character of Puss in Boots. Like, the first 5 minutes of the movie is supposed to make Puss in Boots come off as very much like high-centered, like, oh, it's all about me, I'm the best sort of guy. And it's perfect because it doesn't come off as a point he's being a jackass, but it's kind of like him being like boastful, but you can definitely tell where the plot is going and where his arc will be going. And it was beautifully done, and it was actually just incredibly smart how they did it in that scene. And another thing, Banderas in this movie, voicing Puss in Boots again, this is by far his best time voicing the character. His voice acting in this movie trumps everything else I've seen him in. He's wonderful in this movie, and you can definitely tell that he loves this character, and I just loved every minute of his performance. And the same goes with all the other cast, especially this dog character that from the trailers I thought was going to be really friggin' annoying. Like, I thought it was going to be the most annoying dog on the planet. But once you get to know the character, you realize that he's honestly just a wholesome character. It doesn't mean anything, he's not annoying, he's funny, and he has this really dark backstory that it's weird because it's like, it can come off as funny, but also really messed up. And how they have it in the movie where he actually explains his backstory, you don't know what to feel, and I kind of love that, and it fits the Shrek comedy so well. Because this movie also gave me something that has been lacking in these Shrek movies, and that's the really dark but clever comedy. I didn't really get that in the third and fourth Shrek movie, but this movie definitely brings it home for me. It made me feel like I was watching Shrek 2. Like, the writing just felt like it, and it felt very wholesome at times, but also felt very, like, adult-friendly. It felt like something that adults could watch and laugh at, and I really like that. And I like DreamWorks going back to the basics and just sticking with what works, because this movie's funny. This movie's hilarious. This movie has so many awesome moments that are just dying of laughter. Like, I was dying of laughter so many times in this movie, especially there's like a compilation of showing how Puss has died in past lives, and I was just dying. Like, I thought it was so funny, and it was kind of sad, but like there was one moment in particular. I had 3 friends with me, and at one point in the movie, I won't spoil what it is, we all just out loud laughed. And that's a beautiful thing, because I don't really get that in movies anymore, especially animated movies. I don't laugh that hard anymore at them, because usually they go for more childish humor. They go for fart jokes, they go for poop jokes. Another thing in this movie I really like is just the plot. The plot is literally just Puss in Boots going on his ventures, hitting his last life, because cats, you know, they have 9 lives. He hits his last life, and he learns that there's this magical wishing star that can bring back his lives. And I really like this part of the movie because it's a really smart idea. Like, it plays with the idea, you know, the cats have 9 lives, but it's also just really smart for Puss in Boots because, you know, he probably would have died a couple times from the crap he's done, and they show what he's done, and it makes so much sense. And I really love the plot of the movie and how it actually plays with Puss's arc in this movie. Which a big part of his arc in this movie is that he is this big hero, but he's also still a person. He can still slow down and appreciate what's around him, but he also has to be somewhat adult. He has to realize that he can't keep throwing these things away, like his lives, just because he's Puss in Boots and is this legend amongst thieves. He still has to be mindful that he is a person, he is not invincible, and he has to learn that throughout this movie, that he is not, he's not everything. There are other people around him. He is not going to be the center of attention every time. And I really, really like that element of the movie. And I thought it was really smart to do it in that way because it gives the character some morality. It gives the character more character in general. And it just makes you feel like he learned something by the end of the movie, which he definitely does. Holy shit, I love the villains in this movie so much. DreamWorks always kills it when it comes to villains. But something about this movie, I just adored every villain. And there's a lot of them, actually. We have 3 different villains chasing Puss in Boots at all times. We have Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, which I guess you consider more than 3, but they're just kind of one unit, so I'm going to count them as 1. We have Wolf, which we'll get to that. And then our last one is Jack Horner, which is from a really obscure nursery rhyme, which I'm not familiar with. I wasn't familiar with in the movie, but he's played by John Mulaney, and he's definitely the villain that gets the least amount of screen time, so I won't talk about him as much. But just know, he is still incredibly enjoyable. He has this like bag of magical weapons that he uses throughout the movie in his pursuit, and his basic, like his plain disregard for human life and how he'll just kill people that work with him, and he's like, well, you know, we gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. It's hilarious, but it's also incredibly interesting, the different weapons he pulls out, and I really enjoyed his character, even though he's the most undeveloped of them all, but that still doesn't mean he's undeveloped, because every character in this movie, and every villain, gets a reasoning of why they're doing what they're doing. Like Florence Pugh's Goldilocks has a very clear motivation in mind of why she is chasing this star with Puss in Boots. And this is actually interesting, she's not really like the villain in this movie. She's more of an obstacle that Puss in Boots have to face because they're going after the same thing. But in the beginning of the movie, she's actually not even trying to go after Puss in Boots in a bad way. She's actually there to kind of recruit him to get what she wants. And then there's very clear morals with this character that make you feel certain ways, and you really do understand why she's doing what she's doing. And it's a really sweet interpretation. It's very wholesome by the end of the movie how that plays out. But oh my god, let's talk about the wolf. Holy shit, this character. What can I say about this character that everyone hasn't said already? This character is unironically one of the coolest villains, in my opinion, ever put to animation. This guy trumps like 75% of all other animated villains. He is so effing cool for no reason. Like, I don't know what DreamWorks was smoking when they made this character, or what they were like cooking, but they were like, we're gonna make a good one. And holy shit, this is unironically one of my favorite parts about the movie, because his presence is just so intimidating. Like, he is everything that a villain should be. He should be intimidating. He should have a goal, but he should have a reason for doing it. And his goal is actually pretty much to do with Puss in Boots' arc, which actually I really enjoy, because he doesn't have like the best reasoning, but I will talk about like what he represents. But the arc that he gives Puss in Boots is by far the most enjoyable part of this movie, and every time he shows up, you just know something traumatic's gonna happen. Because the first time he shows up, you're kind of like, okay, like he's a little creepy, and then he does something that's like really like dark, and you're just like, oh my god, like I'm scared right now. And every time he shows up, he has that same feel. He never feels comedic. He's very much the same character in every scene, this ruthless, vengeful villain that just wants the one goal, and that is to kill Puss in Boots, because in this movie, he is actually the living embodiment of death, which is insanely cool. And it's this obstacle, and it's this roadmap that Puss in Boots has to keep dealing with, is that he keeps showing up just like, stop being a coward, you're gonna fucking face me, or I'm just gonna kill you all the same, because I don't like you very much. And there is more reasoning for the movie. I won't spoil it specifically, but he is just so effing cool. And every time he does that whistle when he comes into frame, it just gave me chills, and I freaking loved him. And just look at his design. It's so simple, but it goes so hard. And the last action scene with him at the end is beautiful. It is so good. It is so freaking good, and I love the voice performance that the actor gave in his character. It was just great. I loved it. Another thing I really like about this movie is the emotion. There are a lot of really good emotional moments in this movie that make you feel for certain characters, like the dog, like I said, but also for Puss in Boots and Kitty Softpaws, which, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even really like the character in the first film, but this film gives her a lot of like personality with Puss in Boots, and gives her, again, an arc, which is great. And it adds to some really emotional moments that when you sit back and think about, you kind of like, you almost tear up, because it's like, wow, that was really well done. And it feels very much just like a very human message with these characters and what these two characters go through. And I think it's very relatable in that way. And I really enjoyed that part of the movie and that emotional core of the movie. So now, if you're not convinced that this movie is wonderful and great, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Like, I tried to make points, but I literally couldn't, because they were all in my mind already. I already knew what I was going to say about this movie, and everything is just positive, because honestly, I just don't have anything negative to say about this movie. But anyways, thank you for watching this video about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is a little bit different opposed to my regular reviews because I just gushed about this movie. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like what you saw here, please like and subscribe down below for more content on the channel coming pretty soon. And I'll see y'all in the next one. See ya.